Welcome into the one and only Aggie Up podcast, where we talk all things Aggie sports, recruiting. We're brought to you by ustateaggies.com. And tonight, this is Isaac Draxler. I'm joined by Seth Tuba. Thanks for joining me, Seth. What is up?
Not much. Just trying to get over my illness that I've had since we went to Nevada, and I'm still got a lingering thing going on. I don't know. Now it's in my chest, and I can't get it out.
Yeah, so it's been a couple weeks since we recorded an episode. So thanks for listening and remembering us, because a few things happened. So we recorded a podcast that had technical difficulties, and we've been sick. So between the two, it's been a couple weeks since we actually released an actual podcast. The last podcast was the Kyle Wimpy podcast, right? Am I forgetting something that we did?
No, I think
was that it?
Did the Kyle Wimpy one, then we did the one with technical difficulties, and we haven't done one since. So yeah.
All right. So I think the Kyle Wimpy podcast went so well. We're gonna have him on again sometime. Some of the things that we're gonna talk about tonight. It'd be nice to get his feedback on some of the offensive line things, some of the ways that we can fix Utah State football. Would be good to get his his point of view on some of those changes, some of those things. There's a few articles on ustateaggies.com that you should definitely be checking out. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight, it'll probably be split into two episodes. One is the article about changing, or hashtag fix it, fixing the Utah State football program, kind of getting back on track, getting back to a bowl game next year, competing in the Mountain West and so forth, what changes need to happen. And so we'll go through some of those things. But I think first we're going to start out with some of the recruiting news, some of the things going on. We've got these basically 2 weekends of visits, 2 weeks of visits, I guess, because Ernest Bagner, he visited this week during the week. I believe he was the only official visit this week during the week. And then last weekend they had 7 guys, couple return missionaries, and then a couple of high school guys and a couple JC guys. So kind of a mix of different guys, in-state guys, out-of-state guys, JUCO guys. And so we'll kind of go through that. We'll recap that. As always, always be checking into ustateaggies.com. The Twitter accounts to follow are definitely Aggie Up and Call It U State. So always check back to those. You're going to get the most up-to-date recruiting news. You're going to get the news on any changes. Like I said, we'll talk more about that later. It'll probably actually be a separate podcast. But definitely some news on the coaching front will be coming down the pipe at some point in the near future. So we'll talk about those kind of changes that'll be happening. So stay tuned. If you're listening to this podcast, there'll probably be another podcast. We kind of do 45 minutes at a time, and then you can kind of listen in one setting. Sit down and listen while you've got 45 minutes. So definitely come back. Always follow us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, whether you use Spreaker or any podcast app, you can find us. Just search Aggie Up, one word, Aggie Up, and you'll be able to find us. Literally, I've tried almost every podcast app, and if I do find one that it doesn't come up on, then I make sure it does in the future. So definitely make sure you're checking that out, whatever podcast app you use. Subscribe, give us a review, let us know any feedback, any questions, anything like that on Twitter is usually the easiest way, but you can go to ustateaggies.com. There's a message board. You can do that as well. So let's run down some of the recent commits. We could even talk about all the committed players. Most of the questions on Twitter were about the commits and some of the recruits, some of the visits coming up, who's gonna be a contributor next year, and so forth and so on. So, kind of run down the commits. The most recent commit tonight was actually I don't even know how you say it. Is Hodri Jackson? Is that how you say it, Seth? Do you know?
I I'm not sure. I think it's Zahadri, but
Zahadri.
maybe
We'll go with
Zah.
Zahadri.
I think
And
that's his first name.
seriously, I've never had problem with names until I started doing this podcast. It's like I swear you get on a live mic and you completely forget how to say names and everything. You're kind of your brain shuts down. It's crazy. So we've got Zahadri Jackson. He's a cornerback out of Florida. He actually knows Columbia, right? So those two would be a huge, even if those are the only two guys that Utah State signs out of Florida, that would be a huge win in Florida. He's not a huge cornerback, but he's got all the tools to come in and be successful and to contribute pretty quick. The speed and the fluidity and all those different things that you like to hear about a cornerback. And you can jump in, Seth. Do you have any other input on Zahadri?
Yeah. So I just by looking at his film and everything, he reminds me how Jalen Davis was kind of coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen's put on, some weight and everything, obviously, but I think Zahadri, I don't know, he might be 170 pounds, so obviously he's going to have to put on 15, 20 pounds, but, and he's not super tall. I know last year, couple years, they've been kind of targeting these
Yeah.
taller 6 foot plus corners and stuff like that. And I don't know how well that's actually worked out, but he's 5'10", Jalen Davis' size, he's about the same height, but his cover skills are really, really good. And I've asked some people in Florida that I talked to, and they didn't know he was kind of far away from where they live, so they didn't know much about him. But they checked the tape out and they liked him too, obviously. Yeah. He had early offers from Iowa offered him, Boise offered him. I talked to him tonight and I just asked him if he could just shoot me a quick update of the offers that he did have.
Okay.
Iowa, Akron, Tennessee State, Boise, South Florida, and I think the last one's Florida Atlantic. I think it was FAU, and then Utah State, obviously. So I don't know, with Iowa, I don't know if it was kind of those early, they shoot
Offers,
out
yeah.
20 offers to, a position group or whatever, and they just kind of, they want to commit, and they tell them, well, you got to hang on type thing, and then if they fill it, then they're kind of out of luck. But he did have the offers. Obviously, those schools thought he had the talent, to play there. So I'm really excited about it. It's always good to get at least one corner in a class, two corners in a class. We need to, Utah State needs to focus on some other position groups, obviously now, but I'm excited about it. So, and he seems pretty stoked the way he's going off on social media with it. So
it looks like, I don't know if you confirm this 100%, but it doesn't seem like he's taking more visits in January. Do you know if he's going to take any visits in January
I'm
to
not
other
sure.
schools? Okay.
Ask him if
That's
he's
something
gonna.
we'll find out. Obviously, if he does or anything, we'll update Scout. We'll update ustateaggies.com. So check that out. So another visitor from this weekend, Jackson. visited this weekend. Joe Tukuafu visited this weekend, which more than anything, he was already committed. He went on a mission for 2 years, came back. He signed 3 years ago. He's a tight end, really good player. I think Tukuafu, I can speak for most of Aggie fans in saying that he's one of the most exciting recruits that the Aggies have gotten in the last few years. Really, since Matt Wells took over, I would say he's probably the best recruit the Aggies have gotten, and so I think everybody's excited about that. He was visiting with his former teammate Ula Tulutau. So Tulutau is a big running back from East High School as well. So those two would be a big get. Some of the other return missionaries and different players from East High School obviously would be big time to widen and to improve that pipeline. It's going to just pay dividends year after year after year after year because that program is stacked. That program is completely I don't want to say something that would be offensive, but it's completely. I was going to say on steroids, but obviously they're not on steroids. It's just an incredible pipeline. It's an incredible program that they're building at East, and so that's going to pay dividends. That's going to be a huge key for in-state recruiting. And really, somebody asked about. I'll just cover this. Somebody asked about recruiting for next year in 2018 and the kind of early offers and stuff. And you only have to look at a few different programs to kind of see those early guys that they're going to focus on. And you have to look at the East High School guys. You look at the Lehigh guys. That's a loaded program. And you look at the Alta program to a certain extent. Alta's got some good players, and then Highland's got some really good players. Jordan's got a couple players. One is committed, Henley Avendano, from this year, 2017, and then he'll go on a mission. He's a center that in 2 years he'll come back from a mission. 2.5 years, he'll come back from a mission and be able to take one of those interior spots on the offensive line, I think. One of the other visitors, Sammy Bernard, he's an offensive tackle, but he's really versatile. He can play at guard, he can play at tackle. He was at Neo, he was at Northeast Oklahoma A&M JUCO guy that'll come in and be able to play a couple years. So, do you have any comments about those guys, Seth? What do you think?
No, I think that Joe, getting Joe to kind of quote unquote recommit, because I think a lot of people have questions. I've been asked, and they can sign basically with Utah State and then go on their mission, but when they come back with the 2-year gap there, they're basically a free agent, if you will, again. So they're kind of free to go wherever they want to go. Once they get back. So I know I was told that BYU was really, really, really after him. But, it's a good sign that he just kind of confirmed and recommitted up there. And I think, with him and, my gosh, can't even remember, our tight end position, losing Houston. It's going to be big, and I haven't seen what the kid looks like after 2 years being on his mission. I know he went to Argentina, but I don't know how well they feed him down there. I don't know if he got bigger or if he's just kind of the same build.
He doesn't look bigger. I've seen pictures of him. He doesn't look bigger. He, more than anything, he basically, he doesn't look too big. When I saw him, was it at spring ball? Not this year, but last year. He came home to get his ankle or knee or something. He injured or got hurt, so he had to have surgery and came home. And he looked like he was bigger then, but the pictures that I've seen and from what I've heard, he's looking pretty pretty good right now. So, um, not a guy that's gonna be too big for the tight end position or something.